Thank you for being here with me and welcome back. My name is Catherine Daniels, and I love to empower people with spiritual healing and wellness. The best thing about Retreat to Peace is the gift of inner peace, greater love, and joy. And during these times of changes and uncertainty in the world, nothing is permanent except our souls. And that's why we need to come together as we travel through one another's countries, creating a bridge, removing all the labels, and as we come together as one people, finding our home in one world. This is why our signature talk today is so important. Today, I am super excited to welcome my guest speaker, Maurice Martin. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so happy you're here with us. For my show audience, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I guess the best way to describe myself, I am an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a counselor, I'm a spiritual coach, and I heard a preacher say this once. It was T.D. Jakes, and he said, "Never let men place a period where God placed a comma." Right, and so I feel like that goes for me because I described a bunch of things that I am, but I'm a lot more than that. And so I'm a survivor. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a teacher, I'm a preacher, I'm a lot of things. And so, I'm just happy to be here because I think that what you're doing on your podcast is so necessary, that people need hope. People need a pathway to peace. And I think that's so much of my life purpose is helping take people to those places in life and helping people to know that it's possible. So I would start off by saying I think that's the best way I can describe me.
It is amazing that you're doing this kind of work as well, because I agree with you. We're living in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty and people don't feel that they have any sense of control on what's happening around them and what's going on in the world. And often I feel like it's regressed people back to when they were children, because when we were children, we are at the mercy of our elders and the adults that we live with, and we don't have any control. And a lot of times that's a crazy time for children, especially that don't have a safety net with their parents or in their environment. And that's something that I most definitely can relate to. Is that something you can relate to?
Absolutely. I think that when you have moments in your life where shifts change and transitions change and the control you once had is no longer available, it forces you to recalibrate to your situation and to ask, what do I stand for and what do I believe in, right? That if I'm in a childlike position, in a childlike posture, then what I report to matters. The boundaries and constructs that are placed around me and within me matter a whole lot. I don't think it's a bad thing to be childlike, right? Because I believe in childlike faith and childlike wonder, right? That when I'm my most childlike is the time I can most believe that something great is possible. I have two children, and when I spend time with my 2-year-old, there is something about her. Actually, now she's 3. There's something about the way that she believes, right? She hasn't had the same disappointments that I've had. She hasn't had the same brokenness that I've felt. And so there's a part of her that believes daddy can always take care of this. Mommy will always find a way. Hey, at the end of the day, we're going to be good. And I think sometimes when we get to those places of having control, we actually create ceilings and barriers on our potential. So we want things to be so safe and so familiar and so ordinary and so formulaic that we will actually limit how happy we can become. We limit how healthy we can become. We limit the possibilities of how much we can grow, because growing would take childlike wonder and childlike risks and childlike opportunities and not seeing everything as an obstacle. So I think that one of the things that our world is missing right now, as we lose control, is the fact that the loss of control is the chance to recalibrate to possibility. I don't know if that made sense how I said it, but to calibrate to all that can be when you get out of the way.
That is absolutely perfect the way you said it.
Mm-hmm.
So most times when something amazing happens, it usually happens in the worst of everything, right? It's like, but at the time, we don't recognize that. We don't see it because we don't have the ability to see it. But then when we look back, we realize, oh my goodness, in this moment when that happened and everything was just falling apart and I was on my knees and it didn't feel good, that's when I was able to take and make it into a blessing because it was gifted. It was gifted for what was coming, right?
Yes.
And it's amazing because we're living in that moment right now. I mean, there's so much opportunity to take what we're experiencing and build something from it that is absolutely amazing. And I feel like part of this work that you and I are doing is exactly on point to the direction that we're heading.
Yes. Well, what you're talking about is perspective. And for all the listeners today, the greatest thing that I can tell you is perspective is the gateway to possibility. When I look at life, I have to understand that everything that I've been through has an effect on how I see the things in front of me. In other words, anything that you haven't healed from, anything that you haven't grown through, anything that you haven't worked on has a way of skewing what you see in front of you. So you'll find yourself in a beautiful situation where the situation is growing you and it's evolving you and it's maturing you and all of the catalysts that you need for transformation are there. And you'll find yourself looking around bitter, thinking that you're only seeing what feels like adversity, and you'll miss that people can't build new muscles without resistance. Right? If I go to a gym, I can do a certain amount of exercises and I can slim down and I can tone up. But if I really want to build new muscles, it requires resistance. It requires weight. It requires something that I have to push back against. I think that what we learn is that life works the same way. It is not the times in my life when I got everything I thought I wanted that I grew. In fact, I digressed in those seasons. It was the seasons where I thought I was going to lose everything, and even in some cases lost most things, that I understood what was really valuable to me, that I started to learn what I was made of. Those are the times when I came to understand and know God. So to me, there's so many moments that you want to rush out of that are the very moments you're supposed to sit in. Because often we look back and you go, do you remember that time in our lives when we lived in that little shack and we didn't have 2 pennies to our name and we could barely afford Brit, but we were so in love? Isn't that the story you hear people tell? Oh, do you remember when the kids were driving us crazy and they were all over the house and they wouldn't shut up? Boy, would I love those times back. It's always the times that are the hardest, that are the ones that in the end are the most invaluable. And I think that's the greatest lesson.
It's so on point what you're saying right now. And I hope that whoever is listening is understanding that whatever they are going through is also for them, like you're explaining. It's part of changing the outcome of what's ahead. It's part of redesign of what it is that your life will be. And so much of it is your mindset. So much of it is just having the ability to fully surrender, sit in the space, allow the healing process to happen. Because what we fail to recognize is that our bodies that we are living in that protects our souls they have all this DNA structure from our parents, from previous generations, and we carry that with us. And part of our journey is also to heal some of what's happened to our relatives, right? We have to be in a space where it's not just healing ourselves, but healing the trauma of the previous generations and really recognizing that. How do people do that though? I mean, that's a good question, right? Like, how do people do that? So for me, my audience knows that I've had a very, very dynamic background. And for me, it was recognizing that sometimes what I was going through, the lens that I had wasn't coming from me. It was coming from the chatter in my head that belonged to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my chatter. And when I started to recognize that, I started to recognize, okay, this is stuff that isn't mine to carry, and I need to put it down and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But people get trapped in that. They get trapped because they keep repeating the same experience over and over and over because they don't know how to shake it. And I know personally so many people that come to me and they say, oh, I want a new job, but they keep repeating the cycle of what they had with the current job. It's like they work themselves till they're burnt out, and then they end up quitting their job and they align themselves with the next one that they're going to do the exact same thing instead of getting into their true authentic self and recognizing what it is that they really want and asking for it, having it come to you, having it gifted to you. And people don't think that's possible, but I'm a testament that is possible. Have you had that happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, you said a lot there. I guess the first thing that comes to mind when I hear you describe that is that we are a culmination of so many things, right? Like you're literally a culmination of all of your experiences, but you're also a culmination of the lived experiences of others who interact with you. So as you said, not only do you hear the words that are given to you by mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever's around, but you're hearing also the influences that came from others that spoke to them. So it's the belief systems, it's the heart postures, it's the viewpoints, it's the stances, right? All of these things play on all of us. And I remember being a kid, and I would have these moments where my heart would be hurt. I would have these moments where I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel needed. I didn't feel loved. And I didn't have words for that. I just knew that it didn't feel right. And I remember a few times going to people that I thought I could talk to and saying, I'm hurting. And the answer was, well, if you only knew what I went through, you wouldn't be belly aching about what you're going through. And so there was this pushing aside of my experience because someone else's was championed as more important. And so what we'll do is we'll take what we are going through, we'll push it to the side, and then we'll take everybody else's truth and reality to become our own. So now every time I feel something, my brain says, well, you really haven't experienced anything. I don't even know what you're complaining about. You haven't had it nearly as bad as other people. Now their words become my internal chatter. Now their negativity becomes my firestorm on the inside. Now their heartbreak becomes my warfare. And so I think that the key, there's so many like expressions that are out there, and I get them, but I fight with some of them because I think that some of them don't get explained well enough. One of them is live your truth. I think live your truth is beautiful as long as it's rooted in finding the truth. If my truth that I'm standing in is actually a whole bunch of other people's half truths that I was raised with, it's not my truth. And so I will just believe that I'll start calling myself all these things. I'm so quirky and I'm so this and I'm so that. And really, that's what other people called you. And you started to just receive the abuse as the truth. You started to receive them not understanding you as your truth. You started feeling like you were left out and you accepted it as your truth. And sometimes that's not fair. And so I think that the key to truly not only breaking generational barriers and generational curses is to go find the real truth. Daddy's daddy hurt daddy's daddy, but daddy's daddy was worth loving. And daddy was hurt by daddy's daddy, but daddy was worth loving. And daddy hurt me, and I was worth loving. And the truth is that we were all worth something that we didn't always receive. So I'm going to make sure that today I receive it. I'm going to make sure that today I go get what I'm supposed to get because it's mine. And my experiences might not have taught me that it's mine. The things that I've lived may not have showed me that it's mine. But when I sit down in the stillness of the moment and I get quiet, it is so obvious to me that I was born to be loved, to be respected, to be cherished, to be admired. And if that's all the case, that when I ask of life to give me good, why wouldn't I expect to have it come back? When I ask a power greater than me to provide for me what I need for the day, why wouldn't it come? I was born to be loved. I was born to grow. I was born to evolve, not to be limited. And I think that that is the key, is that we get to the truth of life. The deep down, undeniable, even in the shades of gray, truth. And to me, that's how you break the generational stuff. That's how you break down the broken traditions of our families and our lives, is you get to the truth. The truth of what is greater than you and what is within you and what is around you. It's that. I think it's that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful how you express all that. Because as we know, as we've been going through the recent years with our world changing so rapidly, and a lot of these changes, if we think about it, there was a time where we would see the evolution of technology take 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And now we're at a point where technology is changing so rapidly. It's like a speeding train. You know, every 24 hours, the technology advancement is occurring around us. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to keep up with. It's difficult to wrap your mind around because it's just happening so fast. And it feels like all these technological advancements, all of these worldly changes, all of these social norms that are being put on the world, it feels like we're in a space where we really do have to get centered. We do have to find our own truth. And we also have to give ourselves grace. Mm. We have to give ourselves grace because we haven't experienced this time before. And I think people also feel really hard on themselves because they're recognizing that not everything is exactly how they would have liked it to be or thought it would be. You know, I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, can you imagine us having this conversation 5 years ago? We wouldn't be talking about these things. Mm-hmm. They weren't even on our radar. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it seemed out of the possibility. But here we are having these conversations. And we really do have to give ourselves grace because the entire globe has been through a traumatic experience. And a lot of the world is grieving. And as we know, grief shows and manifests in different ways. For some people, they fall into to depression. Some people are just angry, they can't accept it. It manifests in a lot of different ways. And I think it's really important that we call it what it is, and recognize it for what it is, and give ourselves grace that we are exactly where we're supposed to be in this moment as individuals. But our connectedness of the things being out of control, we disconnect from that, but learn the connectedness that we have control over. So what does that look like? Maybe it's connecting with your higher power, connecting with God, getting in prayer, connecting with your family, connecting with your friends, getting really authentic and real with that abundance of love that you can experience, and reaching out for it. You don't have to go through this experience by yourself. Somewhere in the world right now, someone's listening to this and they're feeling very isolated and very lonely. And I remember when I started Retreat to Peace, there was this beautiful woman in Greece that I was talking to, and she had shared with me that she was in her home and she had to give a piece of paper to the government to be able to leave her home. And she said to me, I just want to die. I just want to die because I feel like I'm in prison. I feel like I can't leave. I feel like I'm going to be stuck here forever. And I pleaded with her. I said, please listen. Everyone in the world has had a different experience of what is happening. But universally, as humans, we all collectively have been brought into a space of grief. Collectively, all of us have, because we've lost people that we love. We've had our lives change. There's a lot of things that have happened. But this is where give yourself grace, recognize it for what it is, and then find the ways to move out of it. We've all done this before in some ways. When we were little babies, we would fall down and get back up. And we'd fall down and get back up and fall down and get back up. And eventually we learned how to walk. And who is there telling us to get back up?
I'll be honest with you. I know that this is probably a different way of looking at it. And it's not to disagree. It's just almost a different viewpoint, right? I don't actually believe that we just started grieving. I believe we were already grieving and the grief was exposed. I believe that people were running from grief and running from pain, something you were talking about before we started the interview, that people were working 70 and 80 hours a week and chasing after the American dream and chasing after, whatever in their culture and in their community and in their world they valued. And so they were chasing after this sense of normalcy that would give them meaning and give them value and give them worth. And most of them were chasing it without fully ever grasping it. So it was the carrot up in front of the horse on the stick that they just kept trying to obtain and kept trying to obtain and kept trying to obtain. And one day the world shifted and they were told, you can't go after the carrot anymore. And because people didn't feel whole, because they already didn't feel loved, because they already didn't feel cherished, because they already didn't feel like their life had the meaning they wish it did, the grief set in. Well, I can't go chase after the thing that could finally give my life meaning. I can't go run after the thing that would finally give my life worth. So I guess I have to sit in my grief. I guess now I have to sit and accept the fact that I don't even know my partner, that I really don't even know my children, because I've been trying so hard to impress them. I've been so hard to quote, provide for them, that I've never learned how to provide clear communication. I've never learned how to provide my heart. I just learned how to provide financially. And so I agree that our world is grieving. But I feel like I'm at the perfect age. I'm 39 years old. I'll be 40 next year. I remember regular Nintendo. I remember rotary phones. You know what I mean? Like I'm at that age when like I went into college without a cell phone. I left college not knowing how I ever lived without one. Right? I'm literally in that age where like we crossed over. The world was sad. I'm a feeler. The world was sad. There were always narratives that we tried to form and formulate as a culture, as different cultures. I remember, I'll give you an example, 9/11. 9/11 happens, and as an American, society said 9/11 was a catalyst to bring the world together. And it united people and it united a nation. But I had friends who were were Arabic in their past, and I watched the news and I saw places getting bombed and people getting bullied and beat up. America was unified, but it wasn't. It was unified for the most part. George Floyd, racial violence and racial tension. There's this man who gets murdered in broad daylight on camera in the midst of COVID. Well, there was a whole bunch of people who had already been saying that the strife between police and African American, it was a thing, it was tension, and it was real, and it was just televised. And the world had slowed down enough to watch. So when I look at the landscape of our world today, and I look at the changes, and I pay attention to the themes of the news and the words of the leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, whatever you're watching, what I see is that what always existed has simply boiled to the surface. What already was is, and what will be is going to be unless we realize what has always been. If we won't acknowledge that we were broken as people all over the world, we'll never find ways to become whole and healed. So I just feel like as individuals, you and I have to acknowledge, I was sad before COVID, weren't you? I had most of my trauma before COVID, didn't you? Well, the more that you have opened your heart to sharing your story, the more that you've learned how many people were broken just like you. So if the world is made of broken people who have been through broken things, perhaps the thing that we've always needed is just to be honest about what we're living. Maybe it's not that life changed and we started living a different narrative. Maybe it's that we weren't being honest about what we were living. We were all living lies. We still do on social media. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, go anywhere. And what you see is people trying to emulate a reality that's not real. I told one of my friends the other day, I said, I did a video, and I woke up one morning and I just had a heart to pray for people. And I started praying for people, and I felt led to just record myself praying for people. And there's a video, and I'm just crying. I'm crying and praying. I'm just crying and praying. And the video got 90,000 plays. And somebody said, well, what you gonna do to get the next big video? I said, I couldn't tell you. Because that wasn't fake. It wasn't manufactured. There was no strategy behind it. There was no well-timed anything. It was my heart and soul poured out, and I hit record. What my kids love, what my wife loves, what my patients and clients need are my transparency, my honesty, and my openness, despite how much I'd like to seem perfect. It is my quirks that help them feel whole, not my perfection. And I think that if we could acknowledge the imperfections of our cultures and the imperfections of our lives and our journeys and our past, that we would understand it's actually the imperfections that lead us to being perfected. Like if I didn't have a God-sized gap, I wouldn't need God. If I was whole by myself, I wouldn't need my wife. Like it, there's some things I can do all by myself. I don't need anybody, but there's something my wife does for me that adds to my life value. There's something my kids do for me that I didn't even know I needed that gives my life worth. It's in the gaps that we find the need for humanity. And so I think that we've always been grieving, that we've always been looking for more, that we've always been searching. And that the faster that we can, as a people, acknowledge that, then we can start finding ways and moments and conversations to become whole in the things we've been lacking.
I agree. And if anything, you talk about the opportunity that this experience has brought to the world. It's incredible to me how much mental health has been brought to the surface and how accepted it's become.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there was a time where that was something that was taboo. You don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know any human being that has never been through some sort of trauma, rejection, depression, anxiety, some sort of loss, major illness. Everybody has experienced something. And for us not to be able to accept that and process it and work through it and have this label put onto us, like if we need counseling because we're going through depression or something and then be labeled for it. And it's almost like you're less than, and if anything, my experience is that every human has experienced something pretty big, but that's what brings us all together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what brings us together.
Well, and I think that one thing that I would love for people to take away, because I am a counselor, and I don't think that the key is just to talk about it, but that's what we get told. From my experience, people have to learn how to feel about it. When I get a person who walks into a session with me as a coach or a counselor, and they're prepared to share their head, I can help them. I can give tools and techniques. I can help give them some relief from what it is that's stirring in their mind. When a person comes and opens up their heart, I can help them change their life. Because when you say that in your experience, every person you've met has been through something major, if that is the case, something major doesn't just affect your head, it affects your heart. It affects your ability to believe, to have faith, to feel joy, to love and be loved. Like when you get rocked to your core, it affects your ability to live. And so I think that one of the critical things, it's almost what scares me sometimes about therapy, just like I love therapy, is I've seen so many different types of therapists and so many different types of coaches. And so because we all come from these different perspectives, right? And it's possible for me to help you cognitively, do everything right cognitively, and for you to walk out of sessions and still be completely lost. And I think that one of the things that I've learned how to do is to speak to a person's heart, not just their head, and ask questions that challenge a person's heart, not just their head. It's not just the aha moment. It's the wow, I never thought of that moment. It's the ooh, I felt that in the core of my being. Because let me tell you something. When that person touched you, when you got that phone call that took your breath away, when that life experience rocked you in a way that can never go back, that rocked your heart. That shook your soul. And what we need is to go sit down in rooms and not just pour from the head, but open up the heart to the possibility of healing. That's when real healing can come in. That's when God can use that therapist. That's when the gateways of healing begin to open up and flood through. That it's not just the cognitive, but it's the cognitive and the spiritual, right? I know I feel like I sound so deep right now while I'm giving these answers, but it's the truth. I mean, I've had people walk up to me, tears in their eyes, and say, Maurice, you changed my life. And I don't take those words lightly. And no person ever said that to me, and I've had it happen many times. It has never happened because of how smart I am. I've never helped save a soul because I was smart. I don't think that's how life usually works. I think usually when it's the lasting, powerful, wow, I can't believe my life just got changed. It's deeper than what we know. And I just want to encourage people, if you're walking into that therapist's office, if you're signing up for that coaching session, if you're reading that book, if you're hitting your knees for those prayers, if you're opening up that notebook for that journal entry, challenge yourself today to come from the heart. You don't have to worry about it tomorrow. Like tomorrow, you got to worry about tomorrow when that comes. Just today. Come at it from a heart place and get honest and get real and see where that takes you. And I think that is to me, the greatest key to real personal change and evolution and breakthrough and miracles, signs and wonders that everybody's looking for. The miracle, the sign, and the wonder is that your heart is still working even though it's been broken. And it's the fact that it can be mended.
That's beautiful what you just said there.
Mm.
That's really beautiful. There's a lot of people that struggle with living in that heart space and coming from that heart space because, to what you were saying earlier, they have to armor up in protection. So it's like, how do I let this guard down when I'm so used to the same experience playing out over and over and over? You know, it's a difficult process.
It is, but I don't know anybody who wears the armor and doesn't still hurt.
Right.
Right. So when I sit down across from a person with walls of protection around themselves, they're always hurting within the walls. They're always in pain within the armor. So my thing is, if you're going to hurt either way, make it count. If it's going to break your heart either way, then break in a way that it can be repaired. Don't just break in a way that is hidden from the world that will stay broken. In a surgery, a surgeon must cut a person open, take their tools, and in the midst of the most open and exposed situation, bring forth healing. Brokenness is required. And so my whole thing is, this goes back to what you brought up earlier, because I just loved like how you introed it, and they didn't get a chance to hear our conversation earlier, and you poured out so much to me before we started, which is why I think I feel the way I do right now. People have been running from their pain, but the pain was present. They were trying to numb it. They were trying to avoid it. They were trying to ignore it, but it never actually works. You're still hurting. And I've been there. I've had my alcoholic moments. I've been high. I've ran to woman after woman. I've been a workaholic. I mean, I've done it all. And what you do is you throw back a couple of drinks, and then after a while, now you're drunk and sad. You go and you have that sexual fantasy fulfilled, and the moment that it's over, you're like, kind of wish I didn't do that. Nothing lasts. Everything is temporal. It's poof and it's gone. And so I guess what I'm saying is you're already in pain. So why not embrace the process of exposing the pain to what can heal it? It's already there. Why not get something out of it? When I'm doing an interview, there's nobody who's hearing me talk right now who doesn't think I'm wide open, right? Somebody can listen to this interview and can criticize me, can judge me, can chastise me, and it would hurt me. It would hurt. I have insecurities just like everybody else. I spent half my life hearing what I'd never do and what I'd never be and what I'd never become, and the voices still try to talk to me on the inside. I am wide open in this moment. But I'm wide open because I'm trusting a kind of protection that I could never provide myself. When I stop believing I'm the only person who can protect me, I sometimes cut off the ability of the divine to protect me. And I understand, excuse me, I understand that some people had moments in their lives, most of us, excuse me, most of us had moments in our lives where we needed divine protection and it didn't come. That can I say that out loud, right? Where we look back and we go, well, where was God then? I say that in my book. That's why I'm okay with saying it out loud. It's in the last book I wrote. Most of us, when we practice healing and we practice forgiveness, most of us at some point consider the fact that we may have to forgive God or our perception of forgiving God, right? And so part of the process of protection is realizing that if it's true that everything in your life that you've been through can become a catalyst in this moment to bring all of your greatness out and to bring forth all of your beauty and to bring forth everything you were born to become, if that's true, then the divine can use anything. Then your higher power can use all things. And perhaps protection in a moment doesn't look like armor or walls. What if protection is simply for the things that used to hold you captive to now be your catalyst to the greatest healing moments of your life? What if that is the protection? What if the protection is I tear down the walls of feeling like I have to keep this secret to myself and I tell the truth and it sets me free? What if that's the protection? What if I don't need walls? What if I need air? I think most of us, we think we need walls. You ever seen a bird in a cage? It's kind of sad. You're like, boy, I hope that bird can get back out to the sky at some point soon. You ever see a dog in a cage? You're like, boy, kind of hope at some point soon the dog can go outside and start running around. How long have you lived in your cage?
Mm-hmm.
We put ourselves in a cage. We live in mental cages, stuck in a moment we can't get out of, stuck in moments that we choose to disappear back into. And I think the key is to understand I don't need this cage to be protected. I need freedom to be protected. I need the air to be protected. Ultimately, the way that I look at it, I understand there's a bunch of different ways people look at life, but from my life view, I need God to be protected. And God says, go be free.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of the cage. Get from behind your own walls and sit under mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think to me that's the key to me. Go find real freedom. Hurt your way to freedom. Cry your way to freedom. You don't get as free as I am today, and I still have areas of my life where I'm not free like everybody else. You don't get here without a whole bunch of tears. You don't get here without pounding your fist on floors asking why. You don't get here without being hurt, and you don't get here without hurting other people. You don't get to this place of freedom without paying a price. But I was paying a price when I was broken. So if I'm going to pay a price either way, let me pay a price to get something that is invaluable.
Right. Right. When you were in a cage, when did that show up for you in your life?
I think that I first knew I was in a cage. I don't know the exact moment. There's a memory I have of being about 11 or 12. Life had been rough in moments for several years before that. But I remember I was standing in a room and I heard the sound of our garage. And I was frozen. I didn't know what was going to walk through the door. And in those days, I had already been well trained and well conditioned to learn how to tiptoe my way through life, to be sometimes seen and sometimes heard and sometimes felt. My wife still today says, "Oh my God, how do you always sneak up on everybody?" Because I learned how to be there and not there. And I remember there was this moment where the garage door started to open and my heart started to race. And I thought to myself, I don't think I'm okay. And I don't think this is normal. And I don't know who I can talk to. And I don't know who I can be honest with. But I don't think I'm okay. And it was years later before I ever talked about those types of feelings. Crippling fear, crying myself to sleep at night. Laying in bed wondering why nobody loves me. Doesn't matter if people did love me. I perceived that no one did. And so there were these moments that I had where the cage, the prison cell, it started to become comfortable. People would try to reach out to me and want to befriend me, and I would only let them so far. I learned how to manipulate communication. I can laugh my way through anything and joke my way around anything that I want to. And so I would humor my way around things so that I could get back to the cage as soon as possible. It was safe there. Because I'm so observant that I would catch the person snickering at me when they didn't think I was paying attention because they were making fun of me when I was talking. I would catch the person who was judging me from the other side of the room. I would catch the things that would bring out my insecurities. I'm way too observant. The things that people don't tell you till later, and you're like, yeah, I've known that for a decade. And so I started to despise being out in the open. It hurt too much. I'm one of those people, because I have a big personality. People feel like they can say anything to me. So they sometimes do, and that's not a good thing. So there's the people who come up to you and share their heart. But there's the people who just walk up to you and go, I don't like your shirt, and walk away. And you go, do you normally walk up to people and just tell them you don't like their clothes? Well, no, but you're you. Oh, maybe I need to stop being me. The people who would never have small talk with you or invite you to dinner, but when their girlfriend broke up with them in high school, call you on the phone. Maurice, I heard you're good at this. Huh, maybe I don't want to be good at this anymore. And so I feel like at some point I started to take pleasure in the prison. Like it was so familiar. It was so comfortable to be there. I knew how to navigate it. I don't know how to navigate you hurting my feelings. I know how to navigate being guarded, though. I know how to navigate being a control freak and keeping myself into control so you can never have control over me. I know how to do that. So when did it start? I don't know. But I know a lot about how it continued and, and how I lived in it and how I thrived in it in some ways. Or it looked like thriving to me, right? Until ultimately I realized I was drowning. I hope that answered your question, but sometime around there, you know.
So when you're drowning, someone right now is drowning.
Mm-hmm.
They're listening and they're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you give someone who feels that way?
Stand up. Stand up. Many of the people that I meet in life, they're drowning, and they're in a body of water that is so small that if they stood up, they would stop drowning. The problem is you've been lying down in that pool for so long, that's why you're drowning. Stand up. And when you try to stand up, it's going to be unfamiliar to you because you're some of those muscles it's going to take to stand, you haven't used them for a while, if at all. And so you're going to feel a little wobbly underneath you, and it's going to be a little shaky. And you're going to be feeling like you can't stand in your own strength. And perhaps you can't. Maybe you're going to need to lean on somebody else. But the greatest thing that you can do is to understand if you're drowning, you're not necessarily drowning because of how much water is surrounding you. Maurice, you don't understand what I've been through in my life. You don't understand how many tragedies. You don't understand how many heartbreaks. I hear you on all that. But if you're here and you're listening right now, it's for a reason. And so if you are tuned in this moment, and anything that I'm saying is resonating with you, then understand that even if you are surrounded by water and there's a ton of water, maybe you don't understand the giant that you are. Maybe you were born to be so large that that's why so many people have tried to pull you down, because it's intimidating to them all that you are and can be. So the greatest advice that I can give to anyone is take a breath and then stand. And let me tell you something. I have my brother who was closest to me. He drowned. He died. He drowned in water. And the story that they told was that they tried to save him. And when they tried to grasp hold of him, he was fighting to get above water. And so he ends up fighting the very people trying to save him. And so the key is that when you get up, you have to get up in a way that's controlled. Get up with intention. You can't fight everything that's around you. If you try to fight everything, you're going to find yourself fighting against the very thing trying to save you. Yes, you're fighting for your life, but you fight for your life one prayer at a time, one conversation at a time, one journal entry at a time, one stare in the mirror and practice of affirmations at a time. You don't give up by just cussing everybody out around you and letting everybody know you've been holding me down for too long and I'm done. Like, that's not how that happens. You can't fight your way out of this. Not that kind of fight. You fight by saying, God, I'm ready. I want this. So I'm going to start to stand. Please help me. Let somebody stand beside me. Let somebody be in front of me so that if I start to fall, let somebody catch me. But please help me stand. And if you start to stand and then you start to fall over and you slink back in the water, that's okay. Start to get up again. And then start to get up again. And then start to get up again. And after a while, you'll realize that you're doing the same kind of stuff as push-ups when you try to get up again and you try to get up again. You're building muscles. I said you have to push against the resistance. So even if the process of standing is hard, it's not proof you're not meant to stand. It's proof that you have to weather the storm and weather the process to build what is necessary to become what you need to be to stand all the way and sustain it. I'm standing right now, but I remember what it was like to drown. I remember the days I was mad that I didn't drown. Can I say that?
Yeah.
There's somebody listening right now, and there are days when they wake up and they're mad that the water didn't kill them. I promise you, I know what that feeling is. I have been there. And the greatest thing that you can understand is that if you are still breathing, if your heart is still pumping, if you're still here, there's a reason. And you getting up, what you don't realize is this. You're laying down on the ground and the water is surrounding you and you're looking up. And what you don't know is that there's somebody a distance away from you and they're laying down too. And you can't see them and they can't see you. But when you get up and start to walk, they're going to catch a glimpse of you. And you're going to give them hope. You're going to show them what is possible. You're going to build their faith. Your story of getting up will be the catalyst to someone else's miracle. I'm somebody's. Why not you? I hope that somebody just truly takes in the fact that there's somebody who needs you that you've never met. There's somebody who needs you who you don't even know exists. I don't know whose life I can be changing right now, but I fully believe that I'm here to change it because of grace.
Yeah. I just have to take a moment and just gather all of that, because as you were saying it, literally the first time you said stand up, I literally saw angels swoop down and help that person stand.
Come on.
And I believe that there's so much support around us that we don't even realize. And we have earth angels all around all the time. And I think in my journey through my experiences, how many times that divine intervention, that opportunity that I thought was a missed opportunity that became a blessing, how I served for someone else in their miracle over and over and over. I have so many stories I could share, but we all do. We all do. So when you say stand up and, become someone else's vision of hope, guide, I mean, it's beautiful because that's what we're supposed to do. That's part of our life work here. And the safety net of knowing you're not alone. You've got a lot of support. And that is in the spiritual realm as well. The higher power, your God. There's so much, so much. I could talk literally for hours with you. It's powerful. It's so powerful. I sit here and I'm in so much awareness of the magnitude of these interviews and how they radiate and ripple through the world and help people. And I'm always in complete awe and in gratitude of my guests that come to me and share their stories and share these incredible opportunities for people to create hope and give them possibility, really. And in the world that we're living in right now, I mean, I feel like as things feel uncomfortable, as things feel like, the walls are closing in or whatever it may be, it really is look for the light, look for the opportunities, look for the blessings, look for all that is good. And to your point, open up your heart to all of that. Just open it up and be that hope and that inspiration to other people around you. And I know collectively, as we do this around the world, we're going to raise each other up. We're going to raise those vibrational energies around the globe. And that has to manifest into something really beautiful. I really believe that it has to, because that energy of love and light, you can't destroy that. That's not something that can be destroyed.
I think that most people have lived life not truly getting a chance to understand what love really even is. And I get it, because many of us have lived in places where the values were off. People on their deathbed often value very different things than they did in their 20s and in their 30s. And I've read studies where they say that they go around to these hospitals and they interview people in their 80s and 90s, and people say, if you could do it all over again, how would you have lived? And they say, well, I'd have spent more time with my family. I'd have spent more time becoming the man that I needed to become, not trying to accomplish what I thought I needed to accomplish. I would have taken more days off, and I would have lived and laughed and loved, right? And so I think that what I call God, I believe that God gives us an opportunity to calibrate to truth, something that I said earlier. That if you see all these examples around you of people getting everything that they want and nothing that they need, if you've lived it in your own life, if you have gotten things that looked like light and ended up dark, then you have now learned enough to know truth. You've now lived enough to know, I thought that was love. No, that was lust. I thought that was love, but that was me surrounding myself with people I could control. I thought that was peace, but that was just isolation. And so now the real pursuit of truth becomes, so how do I get to real love? How do I experience real peace? How do I open myself up to the possibilities that maybe I wasn't born to be miserable, that maybe I wasn't born to always be ostracized and cast aside? How do I let myself hope again? I'm not sure that there's anything in life more valuable and important than hope. Hope is directly intertwined and interwoven into faith. In fact, I can read that faith is the evidence of things hoped for, the assurance of things hoped for, meaning it's like faith has a substance and hope has a substance. And if I get my heart around hope, it can help me break down barriers. It can give me the courage to walk into what looks impossible. One of the reasons that you do a podcast like this is hope. You want somebody to hear such a message at the right place and the right time in hopes that it sparks hope. Because if a person begins to hope, they become dangerous. Hope is dangerous. Because hope will let you know that it's possible that every lie you've ever been told can be righted. Hope will make you believe that every generational curse can be broken. Hope can make you rekindle a relationship that you thought was on the brinks and could never be what it needs to be again. Hope could make you a better mother, a better father, a better husband, a better wife, a better son, a better daughter, a better boss, a better employee. Hope is literally the catalyst of most of the most beautiful things in life. Not pride, not arrogance. Those things can produce good things, but those things are good and not lasting, fleeting, flickers of light. What I want is the type of lasting light that I can calibrate myself to. Some people travel based on where the sun is in the sky, where the stars are in the sky. You can calibrate yourself to light that is consistent and keeps coming back. Hope is when, even though my life doesn't always look like I want it to, I say, but I remember what God said. Hope is when my life isn't going the way that I want, but I remember that person who spoke such wisdom or spoke such passion or spoke something into me that I can't shake. I mean, yes, I remember all these people who told me what I'm never going to do. And all these people, look, I remember all the things that people said to me that hurt my heart. But I remember being 13 years old and talking to Mrs. Kilborn. It was the last day of school, and I went to Mrs. Kilborn. She was my English teacher, and I went to her so she would sign my journal. She said, "Young man, I want to tell you something." She says, there are some people in life who are born to become anything they want to become. If they put their mind to it, if they put their heart to it, they can become anything that they want. You, sir, are one of those people, so I want to tell you and warn you, make sure you're intentional about what it is you're trying to become. Make sure that you don't live life accidentally, because whatever it is you shoot at, you'll get. I am now 39 years old. It's been 26 years. And the hope that Mrs. Kilborn put inside of me lasted through me wanting to kill myself, lasted through relationships that I didn't want to end, lasted through me failing out of college, lasted through me going back to college, lasted through me playing music with Grammy winners and Emmy winners, lasted me through writing books, lasted me through marriage, lasted me through hope. I think that that's what brings the light. And to me, God is hope, like God is love, right? So to me, it's all intertwined and interwoven into a beautiful tapestry. Because I told somebody, get up, somebody looked in on the inside in their mind's eye, and they saw their self standing up out of a pool of water. And they don't know why, but for some reason, something in them started to believe it was possible. My friends, that's not just my brilliance. That was the birthplace of hope. And hope is not something that I even have to possess to give you. It's something that is divine in nature that just sits with you. It rests on you. It sits around you. I can't take hope and put it in my pocket, yet I can feel it. Hope is everything. Hope is everything. It's what keeps me going. I believe that on my wall it says courageous faith, and then underneath it says embrace the impossible. It's real small, so you can't see it. Even if you're listening, you wouldn't be able to read it. It says embrace the impossible. And that is literally the motto that my wife and I live our lives with now. Embrace the impossible. Somebody said that a kid who had all these scars and verbal abuse and physical abuse and watching mom get beaten, Some people said he would never be able to love the right way. There were some times in my life that I was convinced I couldn't have a happy marriage, or I'd never be able to be with one woman, or that I'd be, and I understand these are my values and this is my life, but I'm just saying there were things that I wanted for my life, but didn't think were possible. I could ever be a good father. I've never seen one. How could I be it? My dad was gone as soon as I was born. I got raised by my stepdad and felt like he didn't want me. That's the truth. So it would be impossible for me to be the father that I am, who was dancing in the living room with his 1-year-old son today. That's impossible for me to work from home today and make a meal and take care of my family's emotional needs, and then get on a podcast and do all these things. My life is impossible to some people. It's impossible. Cool. I'll embrace the impossibility, because my hope, my little bit of hope, is stronger than all of the doubt, all of the criticism, all the cantankerous things that I've experienced. The little bit of hope that I have is so much more powerful than all that stuff. And the problem when I was at my lowest place wasn't that the hope didn't exist, is that I wasn't looking at it. Somebody right now is feeling hopeless. If you're hopeless, why are these words affecting you? If you're hopeless, why is this resonating with you? Nothing would resonate with you that wasn't on your frequency. So if I'm walking down your aisle, it's because you showed up to the store. You already had hope, you just weren't looking at it. You weren't recognizing it. You weren't feeling it. What is there? Very few people in my life have I spoken to and looked in the eyes and couldn't find hope, and then couldn't spark hope. Because sparking hope is actually helping people have self-actualization of where the hope is. That's really what the spark is. It's recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, Maurice, I have something I didn't have before. No, you did. You did have it. You just didn't know it.
Yeah. You had it the whole time.
You had it the whole time.
Yeah. It's amazing because when you live from your heart space and you live from the inside out, as we talked about earlier before we got on the show,
Mm-hmm.
it does change your perspective. It does change your vantage point, and everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. Everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I love for the people that can't see you, I love that I get to interview you and you have this beautiful peace dove over your shoulder that's flying and has that beautiful slogan. And that's just so amazing. It's an amazing testimony of how you live your life with such passion and conviction and such strength. And that's really beautiful. Really beautiful.
It's an honor. It's an honor to be speaking to you. And for many years of my life, I have been doing this type of work behind closed doors. And so this season of my life is really the first season where I have openly started to share the feelings and sentiments and observations that I had already been having, since my, what I call my spiritual awakening, which took place in like 2016. And so, I think it all goes back to the sincerity of the moment and the gratitude of the moment. I'm just grateful. Like truly, truly, I'm grateful. Because if I had my way, I wouldn't be here to talk to everybody. Like if I got what I thought I deserved, then I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. I would have, and I thought that I was put on the earth to make music, right? And I have a keyboard behind me, but like I thought that I was put on the earth, to be a musician, and to go be a famous rock star. And I thought I knew what I was supposed to do in life. And if I had died some of the periods of my life where I kind of wanted to, I would have never written any books. I just finished my third. I never would have gotten married. I never would have had my kids. I never would have seen lives changed. I never would have seen grown men twice my size fall into my arms crying, saying, "Thank you for changing my life." I would have never experienced the most beautiful and precious gifts of my life. They never would have happened. And so the thing that I just want to share with somebody tonight is know that your breakthrough, your miracle, your sign, your wonder, they're all in front of you. They're all before you. They're all during the path that you need to walk now. Everything you're looking for exists and it's all there, but you have to be willing to get up. That's the only thing that changed for me. I got up. And I said, I'm tired and I'm weary, but I'm going to walk. I have belief and disbelief, but I'm going to walk. I'm going to be imperfect in the journey, but I'm going to walk. I'm going to let some people down, but I'm going to try to build some people up, and I'm going to walk. I've done this thing imperfectly. I mess up every day. I say the wrong thing. I do the wrong thing. I think the wrong thing. I get stuck for a minute. But by the grace of God, I'm still here walking. And I was on the phone with a good friend of mine the other day, last week. And, it's a crazy thing when like grown men cry to you, like, when you're close enough. And so one of my friends, we were talking and I was telling him about some of my insecurities. And I said, I'm scared right now. I'm doing so many new things in my life, and I want to get it right for my family, and I want to get it right for my destiny, and I want to get it right for my legacy. And I was talking about all these things, and my friend, he said to me, and as he started to speak, tears welled up in his eyes, and he said, "Listen to me." He said, "I need you to understand that I'm vested in this moment. I'm watching you, and I'm not the only one. And I need you to not take your foot off the gas. I need you to not give up on this journey, because I need to know it's possible." And this is a grown man, tears in his eyes, and he was trying his best not to let one fall. And I thought to myself, this is bigger than me. Isn't that what you told me before the interview started? You said this is bigger than us. This is bigger than me. It's bigger than me. That's why I'm so thankful that I could be used in the potter's hands. This is bigger than me.
And the ripple effect that it has.
Yes.
The ripple effect, one life to the next, to the next, to the next. That's the part that is just astoundingly beautiful.
Yes.
There's just no words.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree. You just never know where that pebble is going to take the water. So have the courage to throw the pebble. Mm-hmm. Have the courage to be the pebble. You don't know how. One of the things that I say to people sometimes, and maybe somebody needs to hear this, think about yourself at your worst and how powerful you are. Like, think of yourself when you're miserable, when you're cantankerous, when you're ornery, when you're frustrated, when you're bitter. Just think of yourself and the effect you have. You ever ruined an atmosphere? You walk into a room and everybody's perfectly fine, and you come in and you just suck the life out of a room. We've all done it. Have you ever brought down morale so much that you started saying things like, "Well, I just don't want to talk about my feelings anymore because I just bring people down"? Well, if you're powerful enough to bring everybody down, you're powerful enough to lift everybody up. If you are powerful enough to take the life out of a room, you're powerful enough to speak life to the room. If you're powerful enough to bring forth darkness, you're powerful enough to bring forth light. And so the key is for me to understand how truly powerful, again, some of you have seen all this water come rushing in, and you're convinced you're going to, and you don't understand there's a giant within you. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that it is so important for us to know what we're capable of. And sometimes you only find it by looking at when it's working against you, not working for you.
I have a beautiful story to share that's coming to me right now.
Mm.
And as a little girl who was supposed to be seen and not heard, if you think about that, look at me. I'm on a world stage now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This little girl who's not supposed to talk. Here I am. But what I love to do is I love to put light and love out into the world. And I will do that with everyone that I come across.
Mm-hmm.
So I will, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who I'm with. I look for opportunity. I'll look for opportunity to pay somebody a compliment. I'll look for opportunity to say, God bless you, you know. And sometimes when I do that, people will look at me strange, like, I can't believe you just said that. But it also just makes their day. You know, people will say, oh my gosh, like, thank you. Thank you for saying that, because you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what a difficult time I'm having right now. And when somebody can truly just put their heart out to another person and let them know, I see you. I'm here to, to share space with you because I see you. And I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know you're supported. And whatever way you can do that, it does. It raises that person's vibration where they're not in that space of, depression or whatever it may be that they're feeling. Because for a brief moment, you've given them that hope that you talked about. You've opened their eyes to something. And then what does that do? It just keeps, rippling out.
And sometimes we miss that in those moments. We don't pay attention to how that also comes back to us, that the ripples go both ways. Sometimes I think so much about my effect on other people that I don't think about their effect on me, right? And so that moment to say God bless you and to see the person look at you funny also shows you a little bit about your worth and your value. It shows you a little bit about what you bring to the world that is rare and unique. They looked at you that way because that's unexpected. It's unconventional. And so there is beauty in learning that everything that you are is everything you're supposed to be. And that when you affect them, they're affecting you and you're affecting yourself. And if you can begin to look at all of those different relationships, it gives you a totally different understanding and revelation about how powerful and beautiful life is. I'm learning about me in that moment too. And I think that's critical. I need every chance I can to understand why I'm a beautiful human. I need to know that. Like I need to know that I'm worth it. I'm worth fighting for. I'm worth healing. I'm worth changing. I'm worth fixing. I'm worth evolving. I'm worth maturing. I'm worth it.
Absolutely.
Not in an egotistical way, just in the most beautiful of ways.
So the people that are listening to the show right now don't have any idea that you have on your shirt, be encouraged. And I love the ability that people have where they can make a statement when they're out in public like that. And sometimes I'll go out into the world and I feel like a lot of people are trying to dim their light because they're trying to conform or they're trying to blend in. And when someone has the courage to make a statement, like be encouraged, I have a shirt that says faith over fear. And I wear it proudly because what happens to me quite often is I'll have total strangers just start talking to me. They'll start telling me things. They'll start opening up to me. And I will listen. I will encourage. And often, they'll just start sharing these hardships or whatever it is they're going through. And I'll always say to them, faith over fear. You don't have to be in fear. You
Mm-hmm.
do not have to be in fear. It's a
Mm-hmm.
choice. It
Mm-hmm.
is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like what you were saying about standing up. You have a
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Mm-hmm. One of my best friends owns a clothing company called Zabree Inspire, and he battles with lupus, and he's just this incredibly inspiring man who I have cried in his chest, and and we've shared these powerful moments together as brothers and friends. And so when I wear a shirt like this, be encouraged, it's because I know somebody needs it. That's why he made it, because he knew someone needed it. Most people, when you walk past them, walking down a street, walking in a store, they know how to encourage everyone in the store but themselves. They know how to pay a compliment to everybody. They know how to give kindness. They even know how to give grace and forgiveness to everybody else. But many people have never learned how to encourage themselves, how to be kind to themselves, how to forgive themselves for their shortcomings. Most of the people who are the strongest people you meet in life are the people who most need encouragement. And so I just think it is so critically important for you to be encouraged, for you to walk life as encouragement. I'm learning chapter 39 of my life. I'm learning there is nothing more important than being. That I have to be faith. I have to be the embodiment of hope. I have to be love. I have to be forgiveness. I have to be grace. I have to be inspiration and be motivation. And I have to be encouraged and be encouragement and be courage. That life is not about doing things and portraying things and just learning the tools of things, but it's about doing things enough that eventually it just becomes you. See, there were some times when I was depressed. I was anxious. I was bitter. I was broken. I was lost. See, when I say all those things, they sound normal. But when I start talking about being faith, it's like, wait a second, what are you talking about? But you know what it is to be lost. You know what it is to be broken. We become the embodiment of the negative values and the negative postures. Well, what if you invite yourself into the journey of becoming everything you've dreamed of being? So I'll be encouraged. I'll walk in the encouragement. I'll be the embodiment of encouragement. It's about becoming.
And it's so strong when you use those words. Like words have energy. And when you say be encouraged, it's so strong. It really does radiate with such strength. And
it does.
It's incredibly beautiful that your friend has this vision and this inner knowing that this is what people need. And it's very subtle. Like you can go into the world and somebody will get a glimpse, and it's only for a brief moment, but it does create that impact. And that's what's really beautiful about it.
Well, the most power in life is in subtleties. How many times in your life have you had someone give you a hateful, subtle glance and it ruins your day? Somebody took a subtle, cheap shot at you and it ruined your mood. So subtle suggestions of positivity and subtle support and subtle references to good. Subtle things can go a long way. A small hug, a wave, a smile. There are so many things that can be subtle in life that we can underestimate and undervalue how critically important they can be.
It's so true. And as a child, you know, the smile is the universal language around the world. So you may not speak the language, but you understand what a smile is, and a child has the ability to recognize what that means and feel that, you know. So it's just a subtle thing, but it has so much impact and power behind it, and it's truly a gift. You're a gift. You're a gift. You're so beautiful and articulate, and you're so filled with grace, and it's just beautiful to have, to have you on the show and be able to articulate the way you do has just been amazing. So I'm so filled with gratitude and just so appreciative of your time.
Just thank you so much for having me. And this has been a beautifully freeing conversation. And again, they didn't hear our pre-conversation, but by the time you opened up and shared what you did, it gave me the comfort and the courage to just be myself. And so just thank you for what you do and what you bring to the table.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Well, I do have one last question for you. So if I were to pick up your earth angel feather off the ground, what would your message to the world be?
God loves you. It would be simple. God loves you. It is possibly the hardest lesson that I've had to learn since I woke up. That I woke up out of a broken place. I experienced the miracle I'd been waiting for. And I realized I had purpose. And I started to see my value and see my worth. I even realized I had gifts. And they began to pour out of me and to touch people and help people and change people. And I could conceive of all of those things. But the hardest thing for me to conceive was that something that could create the universe, something that could create the sun and the moon and the stars and the water, not only created me, but cares. And I think in this season of my life, it's the reason that I'm still standing. That I've realized that something that I can't conceive loves me more than I can conceive. And that's why I am given grace. So if there was only one thing that feather that had dropped down from heaven onto the earth said, it would just say, God loves you.
That is very beautiful. You're definitely an earth angel for sure. Thank you so much, and just so appreciative. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your message, and thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been beautiful.
You're very welcome. And for my audience, thank you for being with us today. And as always, this is Catherine Daniels with Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace, and we'll see you next time.